Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is one of our webinars in English about back to basics, three tips to boost your sales. We're very excited to share this information with you. We're holding these webinars almost every single month. We have these webinars in English. We have other webinars in Spanish. We are a bicultural firm, and in addition to that, we're recording these webinars. So it's a resource for you to enjoy later, share, and the bottom line is that we want to keep adding you value. Um, I want to welcome to this conversation Alejandra Vargas. She's from Mexico. Right now, she's at Georgetown University because she's part of the Global Competitiveness Leadership 2019, which is a program and a Latin America program about leadership that analyzes the region and develop the future agents of change in economic, political, and social environment. She also is an industrial engineer. She has been collaborating with GTC during the last 6 years. She's an executive coach. She's a business developer. She rocks. Welcome, Ale.
Hi, Genaro. And hi, everybody. What a nice introduction. It's a pleasure to me to be here for the next 30 minutes and that we can share some ideas about what sales is all about. So, thank you very much.
Absolutely, absolutely, Ali. And one more thing, you have a chat, so please make sure you are using the chat because this is a conversation. We have lots of people from a lot of places, but our common ground it's that we're speaking in English all over here. So please feel free to ask questions. I'm going to be during Ali's presentation. I'm going to be consolidating all your questions to make this conversation very valuable, to talk to you. And also, there is a button in which you can raise your hand. If you raise your hand, that means that you want me to open your microphone and you want to appear live. Just one thing, we're recording this session, just and have that in mind. This is recorded, okay? So, Ale, um, what do you have in mind for us today?
Well, today we are going to talk about tips to boost our sales. And I decided to talk about sales, but about basics in sales, because there is a lot of information out there about specific sales techniques, about skills that we need to develop. But I truly believe that in order to get extraordinary results, we need like to open ourselves to vulnerability and to talk about the basics in sales, because that is how we can get extraordinary results. And I want to share an example in order to clarify this. And since I was 8 years old, I have dedicated part of my time to run. And my coach always used to tell me that 80% of the results of the competition is about what you do out of the track. So this means that this 80% is about what you eat, it's about how well you sleep, it's about how well you rest, and it's about your emotional and mental energy. So yeah, it's true that every training session is very important, but the difference will be how well you dominate the basics. And there's this phrase that I want to share with all of you. It's a quote from Vince Lombardi. He was the coach of the Green Bay Packers of the NFL. And he used to say this: Gentlemen, this is football. And the key to winning is to be brilliant at the basics. That is why we train to fasten the laces. So I love this phrase because it's really about focusing on the basics, what is going to give you better results. To get a master in any sport, in any art, in any profession, you need to master the basics. So this is what we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about the basics in sales so we can have extraordinary results.
Ale, we're excited. What are the main basics to get extraordinary results in sales?
Well, I'm gonna start with the first basic, and I call it embrace rejection. And before I give you some tips about this basic, I want to share some example that happened to me. This was 3 years ago when I first met with this prospect. So they gave me 20 minutes to present my service, and I was super excited. I prepared myself, I get to the meeting, and I explained in 20 minutes. And when I finished, they told me that the proposal was too expensive and that they were not interested. So at first, this really made me feel uncomfortable because it's a natural reaction when you feel rejected. And I was so prepared. I was like very sure that I was going to cultivate this prospect, and it didn't happen. So at first, I was really, really, really not feeling well with the result. But at the end, I just need to be okay with that no, and just to keep going. And just it's like a matter of probability. Every time that I get a no or every time that I get rejected, I just know that I'm closer to get a yes. And after that, like 3 months after that meeting, that prospect called me and they told us that they were actually interested in our proposal. And now we are working with them, and we've been working with them for 3 years. So it was just about like being in peace with the decision of my prospect, knowing that we as a firm did the best that we can do, and knowing that every time that somebody tells us no, we are closer to get a yes. So, sharing this example, now I want to share with you some tips that really helped me to embrace rejection, and I hope you all find it like also very helpful. And the first one is to learn to feel comfortable with rejection because it's a natural reaction for us not to be comfortable at first. But just know that it's part of the process and that we're now closer to a yes. Also, we need to manage an extraordinary emotional discipline because this is what will help us just to keep following and just to keep going with another prospect. Do not take things personally. This is very important because sometimes as humans we tend to think that it was personal, the decision of the prospect. But we need to know that it's not anything to do with us. It's not personal. So we need to just keep with the process of sale. Also make peace with our prospect decisions. We need to know that they are living some situation and we just need to be in peace with what they are living in that moment and keep going. And we need to know that a prospect become a prospect until he or she decides to change. So we need to know the correct questions to ask to the prospect in order to know if she are ready to change and when are they want to change. So that will help us in the process of selling.
Ale, we have a comment here, and the comment saying, okay, it's easy to understand those concepts, but how can we practice?
Uh-huh. So it's easy, they say it's easy to understand
those concepts. I mean, the concepts that you're sharing are easy to understand, but how do you practice or how do you train? Because I guess the question is coming from the first example that you were giving about training and about focusing on the basics.
Yeah, and that is an excellent question. Thank you very much. And I will tell you two main tips that work for me. One is make sure that I keep my motivation up. And how do I do this? Well, thinking what I just told you that every time that I get a no and I'm closer to a yes. So that keeps my motivation really up because I know that I'm in the process and if I keep trying, I will get to a yes. So one thing is to really keep my motivation up. And the other thing is to help myself With follow-up tools, I use always my calendar. I use Gmail, but I also use Trello. These are tools that we use in the firm. So I really recommend you that use technology because this will really help us to give the follow-up necessary to the prospect. And sales is all about process. So if we have all the steps under control, that will lead us to extraordinary results.
Well, and thank you very much, Ale, because this is, even from the first basic, it's a real challenge to embrace rejection. You usually do the opposite. Um, we're really looking forward for the next basic. What's the next basic, Ale?
Yes, sure. The next basic, it's about them. And it's about them. I want to share three ideas. Is sell is something you do for someone and with someone. So we always need to know that we are with a human and this person have their own experience, their own thoughts. So we need to know that it's a process that we're doing with someone else. And we need to be very empathetic with the other person that we're having a conversation. Also, we need to make sure we empower our prospect. We need to make sure that during all the conversation and interactions that we have, that person really feels that the solution that you are creating is about them. That will make you much more easier when you're working with the prospect, with the client, to get the results. So make sure you empower your prospect and it's their solution. And also very important, we need to remember that we are the most important part of the value proposition. So in every interaction that we have with the prospect, we are selling. So we need to make sure that they enjoy the process and that it's a process that is adding value in every interaction that we have with them. So every 15 minutes, 30 minutes that we can have a conversation or an interaction with a prospect will add them the most possible value. And that way we will be on their mind.
And thank you, Ale. We have another question here, and he's asking, can you clarify this basic with an example?
Yes, actually, I have a very good example. This happened to me last year, probably like in August. And I was prospecting this company and I have a first meeting to explore a solution. And it was a great meeting. At the end, I really thought that I have understood their needs and I will create like the perfect solution. But after that, I had to create 12 different proposals in 10 days. So
Hmm.
imagine the amount of time that I had to invest to create these solutions. I mean, it was like more than 2 hours a day. It was really a lot of time invested in this. But I really learned that it's all about them. And I need to empower them in order that they feel that they create their own solution and that will engage them more. So every hour that I invested in a new proposal, I was thinking like, okay, this proposal will add them more value than the last one. And at the end, every interaction that we have and every proposal that I made during the process, it just made me remember that it's all about them. And in each proposal, I get the opportunity to get to know them better and to co-create a solution that was better fit for their needs.
And great example, Ale. And I was part, I remember that we talked about that when you were leading that situation.
Mhm.
And I want to congratulate you because the focus that you had on adding value and making them the main character in this process in which you are offering a solution, you did it in a great way because I know you did a lot of work in order to make that happen.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, it was a big challenge, but at the end it was worth it because I learned during the process that it's all about them. And at the end, the solution that we co-create was much better than the one that I thought I had in the first conversation.
Good. Very good, Ale.
Perfect. So now I want to share with you the third basic and the one that I like the most personally. And it's called enjoy the process of change. Because as anything in life, we need to enjoy it. So we need to really enjoy the process of sale, the process of change. So I want to share some main ideas with you about this basic. And the first one is to leave sales as a process. We need to know that sales is something that will take us time, that there are some steps that we need to follow. That is a process. It's not something that we're going to close in just one meeting. Maybe we'll do in a perfect scenario, but in
Mhm.
most cases it's not going to happen that way. So we need to know it's a process and to be okay with that. Also, we need to know that sales are change commitments that you need to discover with the prospect that you to ensure that you advance to the next commitment. So next commitment, we are talking about any interaction that you have with the prospect. So during this process, you need to always be closing the next commitment. Actually, that is the next tip that I want to give you. It's make sure that you're always closing the next commitment. And that commitment can be a phone call, can be a meeting, can be an email, can be sharing some information, anything that shows you that your prospect is willing to commit. Even if it seems something very little like an email, it's a commitment. So every interaction that you have with your prospect, make sure that you get out of that interaction with a commitment, with a specific date and with a specific hour. So if you're sending an email, make sure that you know what's the date of the that the prospect is expecting to receive that email. If it's a phone call, make sure that you're going to make that phone call in the in the date and in the hour of their preference. So always make sure that you have next commitment. Also, make sure that you create value during the whole process. This is very important because sometimes we tend to think that we are only creating value if we are making a proposal, of if we are closing, but we really need to understand that in any interaction that we have, we are creating value. And this will lead us to become his most trusted advisor in managing change. And this is what we truly want because we're not looking just for selling a proposal. We are looking for making long-term relationship with the prospect. And we are looking forward to be always in their mind. So every time they have a challenge, they will think of you as a resource to make a solution for that challenge. So for me, this is the most important basic and the one that I enjoy the most because it's all about enjoying the process and becoming his most trusted advisor in managing change.
I'm sure it is Ale because in this slide I started receiving lots of questions. So,
Perfect.
so I guess I like this slide. And consolidating, let's see. Here it says, how do you know your prospect is ready for change?
Okay, that is an excellent question. Thank you very much. And what I really recommend is to ask them, to ask with effective questions, with powerful questions. Because the best way to know that your prospect is willing to change is knowing to ask the powerful questions that will give you the answer. I want to share just an example, but if you're in a meeting and your prospect is not sure if he's committed right now, you can start asking like, when are you willing to change? Why is important this change in your company? Who is the person that is going to take the decision of changing? And these kind of questions will give you the answers that you need to know in order to empower them, because we need to make them feel comfortable. And while we are asking these questions, we also help them to clarify their own minds, because sometimes they don't know when is the perfect time to change. So if we start asking the correct questions, we clarify their minds, we empower them, and we get the answers that we need to know in order to know when is the perfect time to start a process with them.
And Ale, there is another question that says, what kind of questions you ask while prospecting?
Oh, yeah, that's another excellent question. And well, yes, I can give you some tips that will help you a lot. And also, I would like to share some books that I really recommend. So if you can look for them in the internet, they are very helpful if we want to to have more skills to ask effective questions. And the tips will be to start with what or how, to make short and powerful questions, and open-ended questions. So these three tips are very, very easy to remind. And short and powerful questions and open-ended questions is because they lead you to answers that really make them think. Because if we ask something that it's a yes or no, it's the prospect will not need to think that much to give you an answer. So it's better if you just make open-ended questions and start always with with what or how, because this will make the prospect to explore more. And there are two books that I really recommend. The one it's called The Question Behind the Question from John G. Miller, and the other one is Questions Are the Answers. It's by Hal Gregerson. And in this slide, well, in the next slide, I'm gonna show you my email. So please feel free. It's in here. You can see it now. Please feel free to contact me. There's my email. And if you have any questions about the books, I will send you over the name of the book and the author so you can look for them in internet.
Awesome, awesome, and thanks for the resources. I think that asking question, it's really an art, because it's also about really listen or hear to what the prospect is saying, and use that information to ask the next question, and to start to really help or empower the prospect to discover new ways to do things. I truly believe in co-creating a solution. So how have you been working with that idea with your prospects?
In co-creation, the solution,
Yeah.
well, for me, this is the most important part because it's all about them. Co-creating the solution is an essential part of the process. And in co-create the solution with the client, I really recommend a book that is called The Lost Art of Sales. And this book told us about commitments that we need to be following up in order to close a sale. So, for example, in the book, we know the commitment of time, of exploring, of collaborating, of investing, of review again what you've been developing. So it's all about following these steps, and I really recommend this book. And even more if you are in consulting on technology, because it really helps us in more challenging sales. So the author like lead us in the 9 commitments of selling. So if you can look the Lost Art of Sales book, it will really, really help you.
I think you had a slide about that, and you passed that a few
Yeah,
moments. Yeah.
here it is. It's The Lost Art of Closing from Anthony Giannarino. So it's all about the commitments that we need to be following up. So I really, really recommend it because it will give you examples of what to do, what not to do, what it's about each commitment, and you will really enjoy it. It's very easy to read. You will learn a lot. And for us in our company, it was like an aha moment when we discovered this book. So we really recommend it, and it really changed the mindset that we used to have in sales, and we now have extraordinary results. So I really recommend this book also.
And Ale, we have two more questions. I really hope we have more later. I've been consolidating the questions, and it's about what were the commitments that you mentioned about in the book?
Hmm.
Yeah, what were those commitments that you mentioned?
Yes, sure. Well, I mentioned those, and if you want to take notes, and I'll read it to you. It's time, the first one. Then it's explore. Then it's change, collaborate, gain consensus, invest, review, resolve concerns, and execute. So these are the commitments that the book shows us. And also we need to know that it's not a process that is one, then two, then three. It's a process when you can go to the last commitment and then you came back to the first commitment and then you go to the fifth commitment. So we need to know that we are always changing and it's a process that is alive. So if we know all the commitments, we will know precisely where we are and what is the next commitment that we need to go in order to close the sale.
Awesome. And I've read that book, Ale, and it's a great book. It's a great book. I know that you mentioned just in a very concise way each commitment, but what I like about that book is that it gives you examples, and it gives you examples on how to follow up on each commitment when you're selling a complex sale, like a software, like a consulting work, like a training program with follow up, that kind of thing, which is not just like selling an item and receiving a payment. It has to be with collaboration. They had to invest time to achieve what they want. So great book. Yeah, and it's a great, and thank you very much for sharing that with our audience, Ali.
No, highly recommended. Mm.
Awesome. Well, I strongly recommend all the audience to contact Alejandra. You already have her email in case you have questions, in case you want to you have any comment, or if you want to receive some sort of advice from Ali. So there is her information. In addition to that, I'm going to be um, I'm going to be sending this recording at the end of this webinar. You will receive it tomorrow. It's going to be in YouTube, and we have more webinars, and I want to talk about those webinars. The next webinar that we have, it's about the 5 pillars to ensure your results. Alejandra Zarate is going to be leading that one. She's another executive coach. It's as well as Alejandra. This Alejandra is Alejandra Vargas. That Alejandra is Alejandra Zarate. Two Alejandras in the team. And that's going to be happening on March 15 from 1 p.m. to 1:30. Great. It's going to be a great webinar. And another one that Fernanda Ramos is going to be leading is Change Management, 7 Ideas for Success. That's on April 24th. And the third one, I'm very excited about that one because I will be leading that one. It's about the book that I'm going to be publishing this year. The name of the book is Do because it's the Japanese word. Do, it means the path, the way, the art, and it's about the path for continuous growth. In that book, I'm telling some of my experiences in martial arts, especially in karate, in Karate Do, in Jaido, which is the art of the samurai sword, and in another martial art that I practiced, and how that is applied in real life, how is that applies, how those lessons apply in leadership, and how that culture and how that wisdom can be used for by any person. So I think it's going to be, I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. And I'm saying a little bit because it's just 30 minutes. I really hope you enjoy that. That's going to be happening on May 15th. And we really encourage you to follow us in our YouTube channel. You can follow us, you can check our website. We have Facebook. The Facebook it's mainly in Spanish, but LinkedIn and Twitter, we have more information there in English. Remember, we're an international firm, so that's why we're managing two languages, and our clients are all around the globe, but especially in the United States, Mexico, and Latin America. So I really hope you enjoyed this webinar. And if you don't have any, let's see, no more questions. Congratulations, Ale. Great information. Goodbye. See you. Okay, yeah, they are already saying goodbye, and we're saying goodbye too. So Ale, one last comment before we finish.
No, thank you very much to all. I really enjoyed this time with you, and please feel free to contact me for any question or comment that you have.
Awesome. Thank you, Ale. Great information. Bye bye.
Bye.